Yep, check engine light. For those of you new here, this is Project German Roulette. In a nutshell, this is a marketplace find that ticked all the right boxes. No details, no service history, no tread left on the rear tyres, and plenty of faults. I took a massive gamble on this car, and it turns out all it needed was a fuel filter. Well, that was all it needed to run anyway. And in the second episode, we dug into some deferred maintenance. In this episode, we're going to do some wrenching and hopefully some driving. Hope you enjoy. Okay, we've got some new parts here. Before I decided to do the rod bearings, I took the car for a warrant of fitness, which is our annual inspection here in New Zealand. Failed on wiper units, radius rod bushes, planed the steering rack, which I don't believe there's any. I think it was actually the lower control arms or something related. Front tyres worn and cracked because they're old. Also got a new steering shaft bolt, so we'll connect that up and just tidy up and finish off underneath the car after that whole rod bearing debacle. Okay, steering shaft first. Compulsory cleaning. Up she goes. Alright, let's have a crack at these control arms. Shot bushes. Not too bad at that end. Okay, tension rods next. I think these are going to be more interesting. I've got to loosen this pinch bolt on the strut, move the strut up so I can get this ball joint up. See how we go. There we go. Oh yeah. She's out. Ooh. Pretty good there, I reckon. On to the next side. I'm not going to bore you twice, so we'll do a rinse and repeat on this side. Okay, that's the left-hand side all buttoned up. Looking a little bit better under here now. Next on the list is to refit the wheels. We'll load up the suspension and torque those new bushes. And then we've got to do a Vanos system bleed after the rod bearing job, so we'll have a crack at that. I replaced those dry rotted front tyres with a pair of Toyo Proxy Sport. Alright, that's the weight off. Gives me a bit of room to get under there and torque things up. That's the first bolt I've ever torqued with my foot. That wasn't too bad, apart from getting stabbed with fiberglass. That's weird. Almost sounds like it's running out of gas, but there's definitely fuel in it. Well, that was a bit scary. The car sort of repeatedly cut out after I went to move it over the hoist just then. So I thought I'd check the fuel pump fuses, and yeah, I put the fuel pump fuse in the wrong spot when I reinstalled them earlier. So I've put the fuel pump fuse back in. Let's hope that was it. It's not what you want to see when you just had the thing in a million pieces. Well, it's running longer already. I think that was it. Yeah, that power steering's taking its sweet time to bleed. Phew. And that got the heart rate going. Next up was a Vanos bleed procedure. This involves putting the car into a service mode via a scan tool and essentially removes the air from the Vanos system, which is BMW's VVTi, or variable valve timing, which is hydraulically driven. In the end, I probably did 6 or 7 Vanos bleeds over a couple of weeks and eventually got pass results from the Vanos solenoids. Once I was happy with how the car was running, I just took it back down to Roscoe's for a warrant recheck. Yep, that's a pass. Always solid service down there from the boys. That then allowed me to register the car for the first time since 2019. Well, that didn't last long. And yep, check engine light, reduced power. Feels like a misfire. But I'll get home and we'll have a look. Yep, sure enough, misfire cylinder 6. Firstly, I'll swap the ionic modules just to see if that misfire followed from bank to bank. No change, so next up was to swap a couple of coils around just to confirm that it was actually a faulty coil. Jesus. That was tight. 1705. I'm guessing that's the 17th week. I mean, look at it, it looks original. Whereas the coil in cylinder 7, definitely newer. So I'll put this number 6 coil in number 7 and that'll prove that it's the coil at fault. Yep, moved to cylinder 7, so we've got a bad coil. A couple of days later, the new coil arrived. Much better. stoked. Finally, I can start running in these new rod bearings. Miatas. Loads of Miatas. Well, that was a pretty successful drive really so far for the first proper drive. Bear in mind we are in grandpa mode and I'm only using probably half throttle at max and not revving beyond about 5,500 RPM, so just taking it easy for the first sort of few hundred kilometers, and then we'll do an oil change and make sure everything looks good before we properly stress test it. I have noticed that when the engine's still warming up, it's a little bit hesitant down low. I think that's most likely due to the Van Os solenoids. But apart from that, everything feels pretty good. We've got a DSC light up, which I don't know what that'll be, but hopefully nothing major. We'll scan that soon and see what the deal is. Anyway, back to the shed for a post-run-in oil change. Apologies for the shoddy audio in the next section. Turns out my microphone didn't handle the V10 very well. Lovely. Yeah, it might be time for a manual conversion, I think. Well, we've got our first breakdown. As you can see, I'm on the side of the road here. Car won't start. Came up with a yellow cog, which is an SMG fault of some description. Went to change from first to second and just sort of sat there revving. I'm pretty sure it's either the SMG pumps failed or the relays failed, as I can't hear the SMG pump priming. Yeah, on the side of the road here, could be a worse spot, could be a better spot. I'm about 10 kilometers from home, so I might just dig around and see if I can maybe get that relay to work. Just by chance, I had some tools in the boot, so I managed to remove the SMG pump relay and hit it with a hammer. Bit of a Jeremy Clarkson sort of deal. I then put the freshly rebuilt SMG pump relay back in, and the car actually started up. Okay, here goes nothing. And for the clickbait police out there, technically this car did leave me stranded. I just unstranded myself. So I've picked up an ABS fault, but yeah, okay, maybe not. Something weird's going on. Okay, we've got first. We're driving. Second. Okay, third. Alright, we can make it home in this gear. Needless to say, I got into ordering a brand new SMG pump relay. Imagine needing 3 different hand tools to get access to the fuse box. $60 is a lot for a relay, but when it could leave you on the side of the road, you go OEM, of course. And finally, time for some wide open V10 goodness. Anyway, so there you have it. That's the end for this episode. Overall, despite a couple of hiccups, the gamble I took on this car has been worth it. Next episode we're going to do some cosmetic tidy up and actually a modification, if you could call it that. But yeah, this car is really a great package. It handles well, sounds crazy. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.